a hugely significant moment. You've lived through the closure of the frontier, its reopening, EU membership, Brexit, and now this treaty. As someone who's witnessed every major chapter of Gibraltar's modern history, just how significant are these 24 hours for you?
Remarkable. As I look back over my life, most of it obviously closely involved or observant of these events in the life of Gibraltar, I am amazed. Never a dull moment. It's been a hard slog. It hasn't been easy. The years of the closed frontier, 21 years really, with the restrictions starting in 1964, were grim for the government of Gibraltar, very difficult, and at a personal level. And then, unexpectedly, after we joined the EU, the frontier had opened in 85, and then we had Brexit. I think Brexit has been a very great mistake by English politicians. Maybe most of them won't admit it, but they should. Britain hasn't benefited from it. And for Gibraltar was a kick in the guts. I mean, we never expected that. And it has set us back 10 years. But the hard slog that Fabian and Joseph, and supported by Michael Yamas, have undergone, they've delivered. I remember saying shortly before the last general election that they deserved the opportunity to conclude the treaty, and by God, they have done so. I think it's been a wonderful achievement. I think it shows the caliber of Gibraltar politicians, because there are other people like Peter Caruana and Keith Asopardi probably in the same position. I'm sure they would never have let Gibraltar down, as they didn't at the time of the new constitution. So all round, I think, very satisfactory for Gibraltar, and we should be pretty optimistic.
Mr. Canepa, can I ask you a question? You probably didn't hear us read out some of the comments that we've been receiving from our viewers. A lot of concern expressed about what this treaty means for Gibraltar, the open frontier. A lot of people see it as concessions to Spain. They're worried about security. So I'd like to ask you what you think about that, particularly in the context of when the border actually opened in 1985 as well. I mean, what would you say to people with those concerns?
People were concerned at the time. For instance, the border opened in 1985 on a 24-hour basis, but they wanted it to be as it had been in the past. People wanted it to close at 1 in the morning and then not to reopen until 6, because they would feel safe in their beds at home. I think there's nothing to fear, really. The only fear that I personally have is a change of government in Spain. I think for as long as Pedro Sanchez and Alvarez are in government, they are well disposed towards Gibraltar and our people, and I think that there is nothing to fear. What worries me is that things may change in Spain, and then we may have a very right-wing government. PP are not centre-right. They become, with Vox, very right-wing. And those people think differently. Vox are fascists. Vox don't care about people, so they're not going to care about Gibraltar.
But do you think that they would risk jeopardising the reset of the relationship between Spain and the UK by objecting to the treaty? Should they take?
Yes, I think I do. I mean, I follow politics in Spain very, very closely. I hear what a man like Abascal says about climate change. He doesn't care. He does not believe in the normal principles governing politics. They are fascist, they are warped in their way of thinking, and for them Gibraltar is anathema. They would want a Spanish Gibraltar. What benefit to the Campo de Gibraltar a Spanish Gibraltar would have? I don't know. 15,000 people would not come to work in Gibraltar if Gibraltar were Spanish, but they don't care. I find a very hard group of politicians in PP and Vox, and heaven help us if they get into government. They will not care about the EU. They will do what they think, which is what in opposition they are actually advocating.
Mr. Canepa, Ros voiced some concerns from the public. Some people would have preferred a referendum before such a significant change, and you've argued in the past that it's not practical politics. So why do you believe parliamentary approval was the right approach?
Because that is what you elect your people for. You have a general election with a clear-cut program. We all knew at the time of the last general election what was at stake, both government and opposition, not a great deal of difference with regards to Brexit. So you have a detailed memorandum, a manifesto, you have a detailed campaign, and you're telling people what you will do if you get into government, and you ask people for their trust. And you have to trust that people of the intelligence of a Fabian Picardo, of a Peter Caruana, or Sir Joshua Hassan, you have to trust that those people believe what you do believe. You know, why should anybody think that I think differently about the future of Gibraltar and about the good of my children and my grandchildren than they do? You have to have trust. Matters are complex. A government is elected to govern, not to ask people what they think about 1,000-odd pages of a treaty.
Yeah. When you think that the last significant treaty, I think, I'm going to ask Mr. Canepa this, was 313 years ago, the Treaty of Utrecht. We've had political agreements, but this is a legal agreement. This is such a significant moment, perhaps for 300 years.
There was another treaty in 1783, after the War of American Independence, and there they handed over Minorca, but kept Gibraltar.
Right.
That was significant, that they had an opportunity to take Gibraltar and they didn't. But of course, Britain was not going to hand over Gibraltar after the events of the Great Siege.
Yeah, but it is how do you feel looking at that? I mean, that is history in the making.
It reminds me, the day that the frontier opened, February the 5th, 85, I wasn't here. I was in Geneva with Sir Joshua, Joe Pitaluga, Geoffrey Howe and Fernando Moran. We were having a meeting, Gibraltar, Spain and Britain, in Geneva. So I wasn't here for that very, very historical day that the frontier opened. But I'm here today for an equally historical day.
And the difference is that, as we see, Gibraltar is very much on the table, an equal partner.
In our own right.
In our own right. And something that you fought for.
Indeed.
With Sir Joshua Hassan.
We were part of the UK delegation then. Geoffrey Howe treated us very well with great respect. And the Spanish foreign ministers as well. I remember in Spain, Sir Joshua and I were recognized as being chief minister and minister. But look, we didn't have the standing. Gibraltar has been negotiating on its own. The chief minister is a third party in the whole affair. That wasn't the case. We've come a long way.